Welcome everyone to the session. We are in session 70 of our Seregen campaign. Um, so thank you for joining us yet again on this fine Tuesday evening, at least if you're in the East Coast. If you're in the West Coast too, it's kind of like late afternoon, um, early evening if you're Belgian. But yeah, anyway, welcome in everyone and hope you're doing well. I've got a special night planned for all of us, and hopefully you'll join us for that foray. Uh, Speaking of us, let's introduce the group.
Oh, hello. I'm the Banewall, and I am the token West Coaster here, eh? I'm filled with excitement about what's going to happen, and my character, Belzian Gilkis, the half-elf monk, is also filled with excitement about whatever's going to happen next because we've been talking to a vampire queen, and who knows what's going to happen. Oh yeah.
I'm Amethyst. I play Roger Mays, the Wood Elf Assassin, and I was never expecting us to get this far. But here we are, despite all of our efforts. Yes, he would.
I'm Shade. I play Ulrich Oakenhearth, the human paladin. And don't worry, Roger, we still have time to fuck it up.
Hooray!
I am Jaeger. I play Yarvik Venusonbringer, the halfling ranger, and I personally cannot wait to serve our murdered Paladine overlords.
I'm Atomic, and I play Zippo, the Kobold Sorcerer, and I'm literally just here for if we fuck it up, okay? I have no conversation, I just attack.
And I, of course, am the Wombat of DM, playing the Queen tonight, but also playing almost every other character, with some exceptions, of course. I see Queen of Brambles in chat, for instance, playing our Baroness, who is off in the sidelines right now, Baroness Bevon Theris. She might make an appearance later on in the session tonight, depending on what happens, right? So we're gonna get to that in just a second. But before we do, as the group has alluded, some things have happened last session. My voice, for example, cracked much less than it is tonight. So there's that. But we got finished a battle 2 sessions ago, so we kind of started off recovering from that. Took a shortcut by plunging off of a cliff to get to Mayoneer, and then made our way through the city itself. The Baroness learned a secret about Ulrich through one of her Nothics, and then kind of used that information to ply at that secret with Ulrich. And that secret is that he secretly, hence it being a secret, has been kind of coming to terms with potentially joining the vampires so that he can have a longer life and some additional powers, which he might be able to utilize in Seregen to gain him more power. So, but that's all kind of wishful thinking, as he learned things that may or may not be a deal breaker for him, but we'll see what he thinks of next. We went through the capital city itself. Lots of things in there. I won't go over too much, but the city is kind of a mini tiered um, cavern built above a magma caldera, with a large bridge spanning across it that comes from the main entrance to the city. They came in a side entrance, and kind of didn't interact with the city too much, just the very top to get to the palace. But they were able to overlook the city, of course, because it's tiered. So that's kind of where we're at. We got into the palace and began talking to the queen. And as Yarvik alluded to, she is vampiric Pauladine. She's got a southern belle twang to it of aristocracy. And that has been a fun thing to surprise the group with. So they were talking and kind of exchanging pleasantries and what they're about. But the queen seemed to be very down to business, brass tacks, and we kind of ended the session with her saying, "If you come for peace, what have your kingdoms sent as a bargaining chip? What do they bring to the table to offer me?" And that's where we left off last time. Yeah, Dolly Parton too. There's a lot of different vibes going on there. And I will do my best to channel as many as I can. So that's where we left it off, and that's where I leave it to the group to answer that question.
It's all right. We've had 0 time to prepare.
Wait, when did all this happen? What? Actually, before we start, I do have one question.
Yeah,
That
please.
cliff that we jumped off, how big was that cliff? It was described as a big cliff, but a huge cliff?
You would have been falling for several minutes before you landed.
Okay, that's pretty big.
Mm-hmm.
Like several, like 3 minutes, or like 5 minutes, or like 20 minutes.
I would say 3 minutes.
All right, noted. Okay.
Although I do want to say, out of character here, if she wants a bargaining chip to be thrown onto the table just to bring her to the negotiating table, maybe we should leave.
I will also, there is one other key detail to mention, and that is when the party entered the throne room that they're currently in, they found it to be an anti-magic chamber. So their rings don't work, which is something that they've been in the habit of talking to each other outside the rings for quite a while. So definitely has put a twist on negotiations.
Your Highness, we were brought here, or I should say sent here, to attempt to bring you to the negotiating table at all, or perhaps bring the negotiating table to you, as it were. We can speak of the riches of Seregen and the might of Relic, from dawn till dusk, I'm sure, but you won't be hearing anything you don't already know. If Seregen's swords and Relic's might aren't enough to convince you that we will contest Orcus at your side, with the negotiations of how the land is to be divvied up and how the borders are to remain or change later, that's out of our hands. And frankly, I think for most of us here, and Roger looks pointedly at Ulrich and Zippo, the two shorter-lived of the races in attendance. For most of us here, it'll only be a few years before it doesn't matter anymore. You will outlive this entire party of diplomats. You will outlive Seregen's king. And you will outlive the current leadership of Relic, I suspect. Save perhaps the oldest of the dragons. What could we offer you? Here, sent just to announce our intentions for alliance.
I believe that conversation has started. We aren't just talking about me coming to the table. I'm trying to see what assurances you can offer and advantages you can give us. My conversation started when I said, let's get down the brass tacks earlier, sweetie. Now it's all about the contract? What things are we adding to this thing that you need? What things can you offer me to assure me that this is the best deal for me? As I spoke of earlier, who's to say that Orcus can't offer me something much better? As you say, Orcus can offer something a lot more long lasting, if that's your point.
Well, to that point, excuse me. I'm sorry that wasn't great. To that point, I think that perhaps I'm mistaken. A queen need not bow to another, and I think a unity of three mighty realms might be a sight better than having to bend the knee to someone who will, quite frankly, look down the nose at you and replace you the moment that you become less than entertaining. I can't say that I know a lot about Orcus, but demons have a bit of a what's the word that I want? Reputation.
I'll tell you something else that has a reputation. There's a long history of wars between these three kingdoms. What assurances do I have that I won't be turned on first chance? How the hell are we going to be able to work together, standing side by side?
So, there's absolutely no assurance that anybody in this party can offer you that 100 years from now, 50 years from now, these lands would not descend further into war. But we will never get the chance to find out if Orcus destroys us all.
And if you're concerned
hang on, you're speaking of brass tacks. The brass tacks are this is an existential threat that equally threatens all of us. We don't have to be friends to be allies, at least in the short term.
And if you want that contractually, that contract can terminate when Orcus is dealt with, and another one can be negotiated after.
That's what I'd be fixing for.
One that you can negotiate with the actual rulers at a neutral location.
Until then, you are my negotiators, it seems.
And let's propose a few terms, and we can amend them as we go. Nothing needs to be written down and signed, until it's written down and signed.
Yes, but feel free to take notes. I've got a good memory, but it seems like something that'd be worth writing down.
Absolutely. So, why don't we propose to maintain the borders that the wall once enforced?
A mutual respect of individual nation boundaries sounds appropriate. But what does that entail exactly? Obviously, if we're fighting Orcus, are we just fighting Orcus in our own realms? That doesn't seem very pragmatic.
We need rules for allowing strike forces to chase demons across borders, demons who do not respect borders, so that they can be dealt with rather than just making them someone else's problem. I agree.
I think what we're looking for is more along the lines of a mutually agreed upon defensive pact. Like if there was a group of people that were perhaps on either side of a large ocean and they agreed that an attack on one would be an attack on all. Something like that.
I think this is exactly what we need, and I think that you have in your court someone who can provide the solution. Truly, are you familiar with an invention that your Count Bavon calls the marsupialis?
I'm not aware of such a thing. What do you mean? What is this thing?
It is a portable linking of two rings, we'll put it that way. Sort of portable portals in some respects. I do not know the far extent that these can go, but I suspect if the Countess was able to perhaps create more of these, we could give them to key members of our militaries to unite them in conversation.
I mean, the same could go for a message, couldn't it?
Indeed, a
sending
message
spell?
as in, well, a
Uh,
sending spell, yes, absolutely.
well, there's a
But
hitch
not
with
everyone
that.
has those abilities. That's why I mentioned this.
Even beyond that, Ulrich, we've tried to cast sending spells across the old boundaries of the wall, and it didn't work.
That is true, but we do not know whether the marsupialis can perhaps go beyond the boundaries.
Has there been any other magics you've encountered that have not crossed the walls?
Um, trying to think here. I believe that the elven travel magic also had to stop, although
Yeah, I feel like that.
that might be because the forests didn't connect. Though it's hard to say for sure. Um, I what about the Ulrich? What about the scrying stones from the Axe clan? Did those
Uh,
stop as they crossed the wall, or did those work?
I'm thinking.
If you need to do a history check, let me know.
Let me just look at some things real quick. Because the globe, I'm going to note the globe. I'm not telling her this.
Mhm.
The globe did track people on the other side of the wall. I feel like we did
It did
test
not.
that. It did not. Okay.
The lights go out once you cross over the third. So like you can't see any of the lights in Seregen right now, for example.
Right. Okay. Okay. Then I'll roll the history check because I don't remember anything different.
Sure.
With the scrying. 24.
They didn't work.
Yeah. So far, it seems that most magics are still restricted by those barriers.
That's fascinating. I mean, as a rule, I haven't sent any of my people across the borders. But with the walls gone, you'd think that their effects would have too.
May I ask, why is it that you did not send anyone across the borders?
You don't poke a dragon when it's sleeping.
I see.
Fair enough.
That is wise. It's not just fair, that is wise. And unfortunately, we shorter lived peoples, I suppose, are prone to curiosity and finding ways to befriend bears
I mean,
and dragons.
we have a long history with, especially Relic, of them being the aggressors. I readied my forces for when they'd come. And sure enough, they did. And we made them regret it as much as we could.
Indeed. Well, as my fine friend was saying, we need a mutual ability to pursue our mutual enemy across borders without the risk of, well, harming another. And I do believe that there are magics out there that can bind us to such a pact.
We need a protocol that allows us to inform the people who care. And Roger gestures at Queen Cordelia, but also symbolically gestures north to Relic and west to Seregen, at least to his understanding of those two directions, and says, should a force chasing demons be find themselves chasing demons across the wall, they should be equipped to contact whoever it is that matters, equipped and informed to contact whoever it is that matters on the other side of the wall, of why they are there, and what they are chasing. And if asked to leave, they should do so.
Let me ask you this. How much authority were you granted as envoys from Relic?
We were tasked with finding an alliance.
So is this like a blank check situation?
Yeah, I'd say pretty much all the authority. Like, have you have Relic sent any other
She bats her
envoys?
eyes at that comment, by the way.
Our our king will certainly not mind anything that we are.
And she interrupts you. She says, I'm not talking about Seregen, honey. Good old Oki. Always thinking about his kingdom. Love it. I'm talking about Relic. Relic owes me. And she sits down on her throne. She kind of she gently puts aside the gift of the sword was on the chair, and sits down. And she kind of preens a bit and says, I require reparations. The invading party, prior to our supposed peacetime, they did damage to my kingdom. They killed my denizens. They destroyed parts of the elven forest. There need to be a accountant for that. I cannot entertain a nation that strikes with one hand and asks for help in the other. For me to help, and this is why I was getting to what do they have to offer me? Them sending a message such as, we apologize, or we are willing to admit our mistake, or some sort of apology.
In that case, we apologize on behalf of Relic. In fact, we had to fight the very three clan leaders that you accuse, and we saw direct evidence of their transgressions against you. And if you need reparations, you will be in a position to demand them from those leaders directly after this war is done.
Indeed. What kind of remuneration do you seek?
Well, any loss of property must be replaced. Any reparations for loss of life. Terms can be agreed upon later for sure, but if we're making a contract, I'd like that at least in there, to be honored. It wouldn't be a finite thing, of course. Just an acknowledgement of the fault would be enough.
Josh, I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
How rich am I? And I don't mean like right now in my inventory. I mean, what I have a noble birth. I
Mm-hmm.
have noble standing. How extensive is my spending power, assuming I return home?
There's a few interesting things to think about here. You are your money is different from the Crowden money, right?
Of course.
So would you, if the ultimate question is, would your riches be able to pay off the debt of Relic? That remains to be seen, because it has not been established how many people have lost their life or how much property has been lost, right?
Yeah.
And
Question on point of order: Does this whole land of Seregen, or the whole land, is it fiat currency, or does everybody just use a different flavor of gold and gems? Because it seems like gold and gems seem to be the order of the day, no matter where we go.
I don't know that we found the. Oh no, we did find what the elves were using, and it was gem based, correct?
So the elves had platinum moons, as well as gold moons, and then the rest were gem based. Yes, as opposed to Seregen, which was platinum, gold, copper, bronze, and silver. Silver is all but absent in this, and it has no value.
Right.
Well, it probably has value amongst certain people in the country, but definitely not the people who set the standard, right? And then Relic, you're not aware of any coin system for Relic.
Aside that the dragons have gold.
The dragons
Yeah.
have gold, yes.
So everybody values precious metals. So that's kind of a universal. It would be down to what does each individual area's value for that.
Right.
But gold has intrinsic value everywhere.
Yes. Gold may have less of a value in Relic than it does in Seregen, or more of a value in Relic. It really, you really don't know. There's a lot in that question, right? Yeah.
Right. But it just comes down to exchange rate. But debts can be settled with gold.
You anticipate you probably don't have enough to pay it. You have a good amount, but not a whole. Like the border isn't just in that one section you witnessed, right?
Yeah, right.
So
yeah, I'm rich, but not. I own the world, rich. I get
you're
it.
moderate wealth. Yeah.
Yeah,
Not Batman rich.
Okay. I think that Ulrich will just say, though they are a council of peoples, I will say that many defer to not to the wisdom of Rift, leader of the Bronze Clan. And Rift is nothing if not reasonable.
Who's Rift?
One of the leaders of Relic.
Is he one of the ones that Roger here said is going to die in a couple of years?
No. Rift is a dragon.
What color?
Bronze.
She eyes Zippo, who is bronze in color. He your dad, Zippo?
I wish.
But you're from his clan, it seems.
Yeah, we joined it when we got to Relic.
So you cut off there a second. Could you say that again?
Oh, we joined it when we got to Relic.
Oh, so you're not of Relic. You're also Seregen born.
Sadly.
I would have thought with your bronze scales that you were part of him, but okay. What can you tell me of him, young one?
I mean, obviously he's the best ever because he's a dragon.
She looks at
He's super cool.
She looks at the rest of them and she says, "See, you just gotta know what to talk about. You can win anyone over." Another concern I have is, well, how are you convinced that even all three kingdoms together is going to be enough, especially in the state that my kingdom is in?
If your kingdom is diminished, it is not obvious to an outsider.
Well, I mean, we could be stronger.
Indeed, we could all be stronger, and that's why he pulls he pulls on his out of his satchel, the bit of the length of rope that he has. Maybe it's tied to the side of the satchel. We don't climb up a single thread. We weave these together. That's what makes this rope strong and able to carry. And I can nick a little bit of this, and it's
Yeah.
gonna
She's listening.
Still-
Go ahead.
I can cut a little bit of this, and it's still gonna carry my weight.
Okay, I know how rope works.
Yes, I'm sure that you do, but my point here is, if you feel that you are diminished now, this is what we are here for. We are here to lift you back up. We are here to be more than we are divided. And I don't know that we can stand against Orcus. I don't think any of us can say that with certainty. Frankly, go ahead.
But we
Sorry.
will all lose alone.
Correct. I
Should you have need of Seregen's wealth or Relic's might, then ask for it, and we shall ask if we have need of Necrata's wisdom.
Taking no action, interestingly, is an action.
By our powers combined, I am confident that we can win.
I propose that then I think we are having another bullet point added to the contract here. I believe it would go something like, all parties will provide economic and military support to each other as necessary in the war effort against Orcus. Does that sound appropriate?
That sounds very appropriate.
The riches of Seregen indeed, the might of Relic. Figured economic and military represents that pretty well. Speaking of property, there's a reason I asked about the swamps. They belong to me. They have been stolen from the vampire lands for some time, since before the walls went up. You got a good bargaining chip there, honey. I think it's time to put it on the table. Mate, our sword crossing with yours would be much sharper with those swans.
And I
What sort of whetstone might they be?
What kind of army cannot march during the day? How can
I'm
we
specialized in night attacks.
join your forces in battle should there be a push?
may I inquire, will these swans, obviously we are interested in returning your property, but I call it an arcane curiosity on my part. To what extent will their power reach? Will we lose the sun across the land, or is it simply
And he just leaves it hanging.
something that will allow you to walk along amongst the daylight again? He was thinking of the right words there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. She chuckles and says, "Boy, Seregen do be telling some wild stories out there, I see." No, this is just added a weakness to our race. Call it a contract, if you will. It caused us to never be out in the sun or suffer the consequences. There are several others put upon my race from the wars, but this is the one that's the most inconvenient. She's not playful in this moment. This is something that she wants. You get the feeling, and I don't need you to make a check for this, that this is not a negotiable thing. This is going to be something that she is going to want going forward. Yeah.
And as part of this contract, we should return your swans to you, and we may need to ask for your leave to go retrieve them from where they've been stored.
Is that something you can do now?
No, because we're in an anti-magic area.
Once we leave your presence, yes.
She turns to Ulrich and says, "Then I give you my leave to go do so. But hurry back. The rest can stay with me."
Roger nods and says out loud, "As collateral."
That's kind of an issue because Ulrich can't go get them.
What do you mean?
He doesn't know where they're at, and he can't get through the thing that requires us to get through it.
And could you help with
He's
that,
kind of big.
Zippo?
I'm kind of the only one, actually.
Well then, I expect that the two of you can handle it.
I mean, yeah, but I think we should talk the contract out first.
Yeah,
Oh,
Once
just
the contract's cemented, I mean, we're already here anyway. What's stopping us from going to get it then?
we would be
Why leave in the middle of
contractually obligated.
negotiations?
Well,
We'll be
how
happy to include a clause in the contract that should we double cross you, the whole thing is null and void.
she seems
Good point.
satisfied by that, but she also says, "That's fair. Should you double cross me, the contract between our nations will no longer be in existence." Yeah, that's a good thing to add. But I would say that by the time it is time for us to sign those,
You need to see the swans first.
yes,
Yeah. No,
Very
that's
reasonable.
very fair. And I do apologize for cutting you off.
we're negotiating. I cut you off quite a few times.
I actually would like to add something to the contract. And Zippo will raise his hand as he's saying that aloud,
Proceed.
kind of looking at her. I guess I've been trying to activate them pretty much the entire time I've had them. So could I be there when you activate them? So I could see how it was done and what I missed.
Absolutely, you can be there when I do whatever I need to do to them.
See, I even tried to eat them, but it didn't work.
It's a shame. If only you had managed, things might have been a little different right now.
Oh, what a happy thought that is. What could have been.
Could have controlled the sun, Zippo saying to himself as he's sitting down.
If I may just enumerate the various things that we have gone through so far. We are speaking of lending, each nation lending its economic and military support between each other while fighting against Orcus, seeking reparations from Relic to Necrata for recent injuries.
Mutual respect
Should
the
we?
borders.
I'm sorry.
A mutual respect the borders.
A mutual respect of borders, of course. And should we double cross you, this is all null and void. We'll, of course, return the swans swiftly prior to signing this contract. Or, well, we'll show the swans.
The swans will be returned simultaneously with the signing of the
Yes.
contract.
The swans will be returned at the signing of the contract.
I would respectfully request that the double cross clause go both ways. If either party
Yes, that is
validates,
true.
invalidates, if either party double crosses or does something duplicitous, then the contract would be null and void at that point.
She leans back in her chair and kind of spreads a smile, and she's like, "Oh, honey, you don't know how these contracts work, do you? You forget. Vampires are beings of contract. If I sign, I will not go back on my word."
This is true, but I do think that this is a little more inclusive. Should Relic do harm onto you further, for example.
So you're saying butter both sides of the bread so that it looks tastier for your friends.
Yes.
A meaningless gesture to you, but one that will make perhaps the less well-educated agree.
No, I see your point, but it has me thinking bigger. I can't help but notice that there's only one being here signing this contract that is required to obey it. It's easy for you to nullify this contract at a whim, and then it's gone.
I think I may have some solution to that, perhaps. As a member of the Bronze Clan myself, and as a native and undying loyalist to my own kingdom, I worry about the future. I like to see things through, and we are discussing something that, well, this is really about the war against Orcus, but eventually it will be a conversation of the peace between all our peoples for everlasting. And I do believe while Rift and the other dragons can help ensure that, I won't say that there are too many that are long-lived in Seregen to assist with that. I wonder, would it be of interest to have one of your people, or rather one of your species, in a position of power in Seregen?
Now that is very interesting. Go on.
We are I would perhaps be interested in exploring an ascension. I would like to understand it better.
She looks you up and
But
down. Continue.
but I am noble born, and I am a man with some aspiration. One day, we will need a new ruler in Seregen. And I think that it needs to be someone who has an eye towards the future.
Before the queen answers or reacts to this, how is the party reacting to this? I mean, it's kind of been hinted at to some degrees throughout your travels, especially recently.
Pretty sure
But she's going to be
Zippo
kind of
had the idea
clocking
first.
everyone. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure Zippo had the idea first. At the very start of the campaign. He's lessened it now, but he's like, I knew I rubbed off on your Ulrich as he smacks Ulrich on the back as far as he can reach.
Yarvik is he's gonna give Ulrich a little bit of a side eye, but he remains silent.
Ulrich, you get slapped in the ass by Zippo. Brambles is right there with me. Yeah.
Roger, stop it. Not now.
I'm on the other side of the room.
Sorry.
Roger gives Ulrich a look of disgust, but says nothing.
Belzian, not a fan of vampires or vargoyles, is in disbelief, but maintains his gentle demeanor.
As
Smile and his eyes closed.
as Zippo smacks Ulrich's ass, essentially, he says, "So when you become a vampire, since I'm probably not gonna be able to become one, you need to make sure, and I need to be a huge solid. Slide me a Carthalamule if you get one. I really want one of those. Also, if you just so happen to find a Dracolich that nobody takes ownership of, at least let me pet it once before something else happens to it."
He pats you on the head.
The queen kind of clocks all this, and she muses. And judging by the mixed reactions of your party, this is not something that was exactly discussed before you got here. Something you just decided on. What made you think of it now?
It's not something that we've put into the contract. It is something that I think, while we negotiate and discuss, I thought I might head off. You're worried about not having more leverage here. I'm worried about my nation's future.
And your nation, should you choose to accept ascendancy, how would they take your change of heart?
I believe that you have seen how they will take it. This is a sampling of our populace.
5 separate reactions?
We are not a monolith of a people. And we are a people who have known war within our own lands for some time. Roger, though he, I'm sure, is loath to commend such actions as ascending, I believe he and I came up together in the trenches of a war. War is at our gates again with Orcus, and I suspect that even once Orcus goes, there may be war within our own borders one day.
Many in
I don't have.
Seregen would welcome the stability. Many
Indeed,
in Seregen would decry the loss of humanity. Who's to say who could win?
that's true. I suppose our alternative is putting you on a throne, Roger.
Never.
I would say that
Exactly.
I would say that all of these discussions are for another day. I think we're getting a bit of
We are.
what should we call scope creep. I think that this discussion should confine itself to the formation of an alliance to fight the demonic horde, and all of the rest of this discussion can be saved for another day by parties yet to be determined.
Indeed, we are beginning to have a negotiation towards the eventual peace between our nations, but as I saw an entry point there, I thought I would put forward a curiosity.
This will definitely be
Yarvik,
cool when I become a dragon in the future.
but as Yarvik says, perhaps we should focus first on the war.
Well, yes, but your ascension might be convenient to the signing if you are signing as a vampire for the other side. Not to mention the fact that you could act as my representative when you leave. You would be an
That was actually
envoy of Necrata.
That was actually going to be my next question. If our party leader and potentially the next leader, this is again getting a little bit beyond the nature of forming an alliance, will Ulrich retain his own free will, or will he simply be a vassal for your decisions?
Well,
Because this is a question that affects all of us.
what do you think we are? We are a people, not a drone and a queen, such as an insect race.
True, but I also know that out of character. Bramble's character's name, I can't remember what her character's name is.
Bavon.
Countess or Baroness Bavon.
Baroness Vavon is required to Even though she may or may not want to, she is required to do what you ask of her as someone who is a part of your people. So I think it would be very important that Ulrich be able to retain some sense of independence. I know I, as a member of this party, would value that.
Well,
As would I, as an individual.
let me ask you this, Ulrich. When you served your king in Seregen, did you not bend a knee?
Indeed, I did, but and again, this is getting a little ahead of ourselves. If I were to do this, it is with the eye of one day ruling Seregen, or at the very least serving as this long protector. And I would need to have their interests first.
Well, it seems to me like we have two separate contracts at play.
Indeed.
One for your delicate autonomy, and one for our overall agreement. And the scopes are very different. One may assist the other, but maybe you and I can talk privately about the contract between you and me, should you wish to ascend. Because ultimately, that is yet to be written. Your motivations will be written in the act of your integrations, if you will. The Baroness pledged to serve me when she ascended, and so she does. It's a simple contract, just the same as when you pledged to your king. That contract would be null and void should I perish, just like you no longer serve your deceased king. It's the same premise. And the end of the day, though I'm sure you see differently with your short lives.
And I guess that makes sense. If you're both vampires bound by the contract, how you write the contract up would be definite.
That is true.
I am open to the idea, and frankly, Bavon has spoken volumes about you as a candidate. I imagine you would make a good first Baron of Seregen. A Baragen. Has a nice ring to it. But I suppose that nomenclature comes with certain barbs that we might not want. So, you would just be simply a member of the vampire race. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, should you ascend, and based on what you have told me earlier, you would be the first to be of not one, not two, but 3 nations, which I find quite exciting. Look, I got
That
goose
is pretty cool.
pimples. She doesn't, but
I was going to ask, yeah.
It would be a powerful symbol to show to the rulers of Relic and Seregen that all 3 can be united in our party, were we to have one of Relic. Or, one of Necrata amongst us.
and it would give me certain assurances about the fact that the swans would be returning to me to be dealt with, because that weakness would affect you too, Ulrich, should it not?
Well, that's certainly was part of why I was asking about the extensiveness of its reach. Well, why don't we hash out the rest of this Orcus contract, and then we can have a separate conversation before we sign the Orcus contract about my potential ascension.
Yeah, we could do that one of two ways. We could do it in this session, or Shade on Sunday. If we're still meeting, we could do kind of a little one-off.
Yeah. I might need to
If not, that's cool.
reschedule Sunday,
That's,
but
yeah.
but we can talk about that.
Yeah, we can talk.
Yeah.
I would typically
More
suggest next week.
negotiations.
Yeah, so all right. Economic and military support between the three nations while fighting against Orcus. Apologies, just kind of jive head forward here. Reparations from Relic to Necrata for recent injuries. Should any party harm another, the contract is null and void, and the swans shall be returned to the signing of the contract. Zippo is able to be present when the swans are activated. And
Mutual respect of borders.
mutual respect of borders. Yep. I don't know. What do you all think? Is there?
We should write into the text of the contract that all parties will actually attempt to challenge Orcus and
Yeah.
remove him. Though perhaps that's not necessary.
I
What, like-
mean,
A pull your weight clause.
It's hard to say.
I'm gonna say
Is
probably the
is
only
there
ones that
is there a way to write it fairly to account for all of the strengths that aren't covered under military and economic might? Perhaps that's good enough.
everybody try their best.
I mean, I do think that perhaps there is a preamble that states that this contract is for the express purpose of uniting our three nations to fight against Orcus.
That another will be arranged after Orcus is eradicated.
Oh, I would like, speaking of the after, perhaps we should include a clause that each nation party to this agreement will cooperate to organize a meeting of leaders for a further peace agreement.
Yeah, like a non-aggression thing after we defeat Orcus, where we have time to get our poop in a group to see what's next.
Something to the line of, upon the defeat of Orcus, this treaty of non-aggression will continue until such a time as a council will meet of every nation to discuss further peace negotiations. Get us in the same room.
Yes, that sounds eminently agreeable.
How long do you figure? Like a year?
Just until such time a council can meet. Who knows what obstacles there may be, and what rebuilding may be necessary in the meantime.
I'll put it this way: if we write in the contract as a non-aggression pact until the meeting, if a nation wishes to end that non-aggression, they'll have to come to the meeting. So it depends on the expedition of the parties, I assume.
And of course, by definition of the contract, we did note that should any party harm another, the contract is null and void.
Indeed. I do think there needs to be a little bit more buy-in in the penalties. Right now, without any definition to the penalties, the instant one for me is, well, death. And I do not wish that. At least not without that clause on the other nations. And of course, we can't enforce that. So, what is the penalty for me should something go amiss? I do not risk my whole kingdom.
Your
Well,
whole kingdom? Would
what?
that be the worst thing that could happen to you?
What portion of the kingdom would you risk?
I'm sorry, maybe this is Shade just asking.
Yeah.
Was she saying that she's not going to risk her whole kingdom without others risking something as well, like the
No,
other party?
she's saying without a default clause, without a clause for what happens to the vampire when the contract is broken. If one of her underlings goes and attacks Seregen, she will
I
die.
see.
She dies. Yeah.
So she wants something that says, if a rogue underling deliberately misinterprets me and just to fuck shit up, how do I not die?
There it is.
Okay, then
and so we
Something along the lines of before the contract would fall into default due to an errant attack, because in war, blue on blue happens. It's unavoidable. The three signatory parties of the contract would, they would need to confer, hey, it's there has to be some kind of courtesy, some kind of communication between the senior leadership as a declaration that you're going to leave that contract or whatever. So that way an underling doesn't just have the chance to start a war.
but also she wants, in case she accidentally transgresses in some way. Our contract with the Baroness has a clause where if she violates the contract in some way, there's a clause to handle that doesn't result in her death. That's
what she's getting at. Yeah.
Basically, Queen Cordelia is asking for us to put something in the contract here that states explicitly what will happen if Necrata violates this contract, such that she does not die. So I think should Necrata violate this contract, they would forfeit any reparations owed. They would forfeit any economic assistance, and some small, perhaps token measure of land to the aggrieved party.
So instead of making the contract null and void, should we just say, should any party, just do that, what you've just said? Should any party transgress?
Well, so the thing is that just makes our bargaining position worse without any tangible benefit to Necrata.
Okay.
And I'll say
no one
this.
else is.
Yeah, the problem is because only one of the senior leaders is bound by a life debt to the contract.
Yeah.
Like, the other two leaders, Rift and whoever's going to be in charge of Seregen, don't immediately die when the contract is violated, right?
How about this? Due to the intricacies of the contract, the Baroness is exempt from dying should it be broken. Even out the clause, if even out the playing field.
You mean the
I
queen?
will be held to the same standards that one who is mortal would. You know?
Absolutely, that seems fair to me. Should Necrata violate the contract, they will.
There will be
Uh,
no repercussion for the queen, or there would be the same repercussion that would be of any leader of the other nations, something of the sort.
I think that's fair.
yeah, no physical harm, and the remainder of the contract is null and void, which.
Or we could we could add to the reparations clause that, because transgressions have already happened on one end to me, should they continue on any nation, well, that reparation could go the other way or whatnot as well.
That might be better suited to a negotiation post the defeat of Orcus.
Yes, but it would at least set the standard for when we come to the table at the end, since it's being set up that way. It would help hold it all accountable. And because it is part of my contract, and I am intricately connected to it physically, I would know what those numbers are. That's something that's quite handy. And you best believe I'll keep a ledger.
The accountants of Seregen will appreciate your meticulousness, Your Highness. How would you like that clause worded?
Spitball some things and I'll see if I like it.
Should the Crowd violate the treaty, the queen is upheld to pay reprimands or reparations or whatever that word is, into the kingdom it is acted upon.
The aggrieved party.
There you go. That's the better word. The reason we keep you around, Roger.
Should any nation violate the treaty? Because this is more of a treaty than a contract, but at the same time, it is, of course, a contract. Should any nation violate the treaty, they must pay reparations to the nation that they offend. Something of the sort.
Should any nation violate this treaty moving forward, reparations will be owed by the transgressor to the aggrieved.
Yes. And then, in addition to that, Relic will owe reparations.
Yeah.
For
reparations
for transgressions after the wall fell.
Something else that we need to discuss. Typically, a contract, as I spoke of earlier, becomes null and void should a signatory die. Since this is a war, I think we might need to remedy that. Should a death of a signatory occur, this death does not break the contract and will pass on to, in my case, whoever takes on the kingdom in my place. And for you folk, the same would apply.
Should the death of a signatory occur, this death does not break the contract, and the terms of the contract will pass on to any successors.
She nods. Okay, so while you're jotting that down, it is about 9:00. I think it's time for a good old break. We'll take a 10-minute, and when we come back, we'll finish up the points, draft it into a final contract, and then we'll split into a few different factions. I think we'll probably have time to do the Ulrich bit, and then maybe somebody else goes with Zippo instead of Ulrich to retrieve the swans, and we can kind of split it that way. And kind of go from there.
Alrighty.
Okay, so we'll take a 10-minute break. If you're watching, we are not ending. We are just taking a break. So we'll be back in about 10 minutes. Sometimes it might take us a minute or two longer than 10, but we'll be right back for more of this interesting conversation that we're having. We'll see you then. All right, we are back from the break. We were just kind of chatting a little bit about what's next. Right now we're kind of figuring out when we eventually split into our different task groups, who's going to be going where. So I'll kind of let you go back into that.
So who's the best at searching for things, just in case Zippo doesn't remember the exact location?
Yarvik sighs. I guess that would be me.
This is gonna be fun, Yarvik. I'm 50% sure I remember where I put them.
And Roger will tap Yarvik on the shoulder and say, remember, as soon as you step through that ring, our contract with the Baroness is over.
Okay, good point.
Definitely something I knew was going to happen.
I say, Wombat's been aware of that for the entire session. Just reminding you.
Yeah, as soon as you wrote that into that contract 2 sessions ago, I was like, oh, that's going to be interesting.
Yes, we wrote it in unprompted. Well, the Baroness will be aware of that, and she'll see that we're still here and perhaps understand the situation. I'll say out loud as well. Perhaps we should add a clause about protecting diplomatic envoys, both to ensure the safety of any you may send, as well as our own safety.
I know I would appreciate that.
Some kind of immunity for diplomats. Diplomatic immunity.
No, that makes you immune to diplomats.
Oh, right.
We will also need to borrow the Marsup ring thing that Ulrich was talking about.
We have one end of those.
Yeah. I thought we gave it back to the Baroness.
Nope.
Oh, never mind then. Ignore what I just said.
We're obligated to give it back to her eventually, but have yet to do so.
Yep.
All right. So, before we split into groups where we have the Swan Retrieval Party, the Ascendancy Party, which I will lead, and the finite details of the contract, which I assume Belzian, you're going to be helping Roger on.
Oh, yes, I'm standing here with this unending quill and some paper, and I'm ready.
Yeah, seems appropriate. But I would ask that you utilize the paper over there on that desk and ink. It's more official, you see.
I would be honored, Your Majesty.
Out of character, just to confirm something. Was the front of this room anti-magic as well?
Yes, as soon as you went through the doorway. Okay. So you'll have to be outside on the
outside
steps.
Of the chamber. Gotcha. Okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure because I didn't remember if it was or not.
Okay. the final thing, and one more thing to think of while you're drafting your proposal, Roger. I think the um, reparation clause should include a return of citizens to the country that they entered from. Should I have any members of my domain trickle over into little Seregen, they should be found returned to me. I fear for freehold down in the south, and I would expect that if we put that into the clause, that would be an expectation setting up for the future negotiations. But we can talk about it more and hash it out. I just wanted to be made clear that that's something that could be part of that clause line.
For sure. I mean, nobody would want to be a diplomat if their safety wasn't insured.
Yes, that too. The safety of the diplomats for sure. Especially since one party of such is definitely in my interest at the moment. She winks.
I need to ask, Bane, was that cheeky, or was that like, because she's definitely not talking about the diplomats.
It was a bit of both.
Okay. But I mean, that's such a Belzian thing.
We appreciate Belzian for saying the
Yeah.
things that I cannot
Thank you for noticing.
with a straight face.
Yeah, as a player, yeah, it's very cheeky. As the character, that's pretty straight Belzian.
Yeah.
And for once, the queen did not impart the implied. She's got a pretty good perception, but in this case, she just kind of took it as kind of a lost in translation moment.
All right, well, I will get to work on hammering out the final text of this, and with Belzian, of course, while y'all go on your various tasks.
Okay.
All right, so where do we want to start? Do we want to start with the Baroness and Ulrich, or do we want to start with the Swan retrieval?
Okay with either.
So I'll roll initiative, and then we can figure it out that way.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, let's do that. So Ulrich, I'll let you roll for our group.
9.
And Zippo rolled a 6. Jaeger rolled a 14. So, and then Belzian rolled that. Okay. So it looks like Ulrich is definitely going to be going second and or third.
Yep.
I guess it's probably going to be the contract writers first. So, but that being said, Belzian and Roger, how would you like to do this? Is it something where you'd like to kind of discuss things within chat in the Discord? Is it, I mean, because there is going to be writing involved, right? So, or is it something that you would like to hash out and roleplay a bit too?
That's a question for you, Bane. I'm happy
think
to.
A bit of both. I mean, we pretty much blogged it onto our Discord there. So any role playing of it would just be glad you're around for the adventure kind of thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm happy to quietly hammer out the exact text of it and then pass it over into there for uh, Velzian to review, and
Yeah.
then if we're both happy with it, present it.
Sure. We can workshop it while y'all do your other things.
All right, so I'll describe the actions and set the stage for this. So um, the queen invites Ulrich to go to the steps behind the throne up to a raised elevated platform that looks like it's a balcony. There are windows in the back. Um, Although the windows are tinted, and at this point you can't see through them as you go up there, Ulrich. Um, uh, Zippo and Yarvik head south down through the throne room and toward the entrance to the throne room to go do their business. And that leaves Roger and Belzian kind of alone in the throne chamber. Although the queen is absolutely in view up in the balcony. She just has her attentions elsewhere at the moment. Um, the Baroness and the king are still somewhere off behind the door here, which is closed. So yeah, and the person who was guarding the contract desk is not here either. So it's basically just the two of you. So Roger Belzian, anything to say?
I was muted.
Aha! You were thinking about the contract quite hard.
I was mostly just reading out other people's notes of what we've gone through so far.
I'm still hammering out the exact text. It may take a while for me to get through all of these clauses.
Roger's like writing furiously, like someone signing the Declaration of Independence, and Belzian's just watching with like his hands on his hips, like,
Roger is constantly scratching things out. We're starting with our own paper, and we'll be moving on to using the Queen's special paper and ink.
Yeah, you
once
start
we
with
get-
a draft, and it's like printing, but in pencil, and then you move on to using like fancy ink and handwriting, but on the proper paper.
Yes.
All right. Well, why don't we kind of roll through to the other initiatives, and we'll come back to this party, see where you're at in a little bit.
We'd like to hold our action until a later round.
Yeah. Yep. Sounds good to me. All right. So next up in the order is, well, Zippo rolled low, but fortunately Jaeger rolled higher. So Jaeger is going to be Jaeger's group's going to be next. So the two of you exit the throne room. I assume, having been given the marsupialis and the pouch that it was held in by Ulrich. Is that correct, Ulrich?
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, you've handed over Bavon's bag to the both of them. Who did you give it to, Yarvik or Zippo?
I would say give it to Yarvik.
Okay.
What do I do with this thing again?
It's just once you're outside the magic barrier, the anti-magic field, it's gonna, you open it up, you can see through the other side,
Sweet.
and little Zippo's gonna take the two of you through.
Got it. Should be fun. Let's go.
I would advise maybe only one of you go through, honestly, just so no one picks it up on this side.
That's fine. That makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess we'll get clear of the magic field, right? So we'll depart the throne room to the south, and then the first thing I'm going to do is test the rings again. So I'm just gonna be saying stuff on the rings until the rings work again, so I can talk to Zippo. Hey man, can you hear me?
Yeah, as soon as I hear him in the ring, I'm like, yeah. I'm also going to bring. Actually, no, it's in a regular bag on me, so I'll pull the other one out when I get back.
That was some crazy stuff. Ulrich's gonna be a vampire. I'm not sure how I feel about that.
Kind of jealous. I wish I'd have thought of it, but now I'm gonna be a dragon, so that's better, honestly.
A potential undying eternal ruler of eternal night of Seregen. Also, all this negotiation is a moot point after we agreed to give her the swans. Everything else
Yeah.
is just window. Everything else is just window dressing. She got exactly what she wanted.
Yeah. At least I get to see how it happens.
Yeah, you get to see how they work. So, I mean, there's that.
Yeah.
All right, let's go do this. So, I guess we should probably try to find some kind of antechamber or something like that off the main room here, where we can kind of use the pouch in relative privacy. I don't think there's going to be any kind of privacy in this in where we're at right now, but at least at an eye shot.
You'll need to be on the stairs outside of the room. The stairs leading up to the. Yeah, so you'll be pretty exposed. Unless you go all the way down the pyramid, which means you'll have to come all the way back up.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
just as soon as we walk out, it's fine for me.
that's fine. We don't have. Everybody knows exactly what we're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, as soon as we walk out, if we're ready, I'll polymorph myself into a mouse to go through.
All right, and I will babysit the bag.
Give me pointers on tracking when I get through. Yeah, okay. As soon as we're ready, I'll polymorph myself into a mouse for him to throw me through. And then once I'm through, I'll drop the polymorph.
Okay. You enter through the marsupialis and are in a familiar clearing. The bedrolls still are. Wait, so did you clean up the camp at all? You
No,
left
I
it.
left it.
Yeah. So it's been a couple days now. Or well, actually, no, it hasn't. It's still the same day as the last time you were here. It is actually now nighttime, though.
Oh, that's fun.
Yep. Because you haven't camped since yeah, it's this has been a long day.
Yeah. Okay, once I'm through, pretty sure I buried it around the tree I was at. The tree I left the marsupialis at.
Okay. So do you remember exactly where?
I'm pretty sure it was on the opposite side of where the marsupialis was. Because I wrote a really bad intelligence check, so I was like, out of sight, out of mind. I'll
So I remember a few ideas. You had one where you were gonna hide it right under the marsupialis because nobody would think to check right underneath.
yeah, that was.
And then there was another one where you're like, well, I'll just put it on the other side of the tree, and then nobody would think to look back there. And you thought of throwing it into the woods. There was a few things, right? So
yeah, I'm pretty sure I didn't go with the throwing into the woods one. Hoping I didn't. I'll check under the marsupialis first.
okay.
That seems like the most Zippo answer. So I'll move this marsupialis and dig up see if the drown's looks like it's been dug up anything.
Okay. You do not see anything, no fresh dirt underneath the marsupialis, or the bag where it was, with
Yeah.
in the bedrolls and stuff.
Okay, I'll check on the other side of the tree then.
Okay. You see both swans sitting right next to each other, just on the other side of the tree, kind of tucked into the nook of a root, just out in the open.
As soon as I see him, I'm like, I'm so good at hiding things. I will then grab them
Okay.
and move back to the Marsupialis.
Okay.
I will put them through for Yarvik,
Who will grab them?
and then I'll be like, Yarvik, you gotta put your hand through so I can transform into a mouse so you can grab me.
Got it. So I can stick my hand through here, holding on to the swans with the other side.
Yeah, and then I will polymorph myself back into a mouse for him to grab me.
All right, little guy, come on through.
Okay. While this is happening, Belzian and Roger, you hear a door slam open. The door is to the west of you. Let's see if I can time this okay.
Like to the west, like where the Baroness and the King went?
Correct, yeah. And through the door, you see the Baroness storming into the throne room, looking alarmed and upset. Seeing if she'll be able to join chat or join the call.
Did we forget something about giving her the swans first?
We didn't promise the swans to her,
Okay.
but this ends our contract with her.
Right.
We were going to hang out with the Queen anyway.
Well, and that was all out of character. So this isn't known by Ulrich yet. But
yeah, of course.
Bavon is here, so go ahead.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hello. I understand.
Bavon, you sorry to cut in, just describing the scene for you. So you see the queen is gone. You do kind of spot her up top, and I'll actually move these players up here. So you see her up on the balcony. Her attention's turned toward Ulrich. Two of the party members are missing from the room, and the only two that are present are Belzian and Roger, who kind of greet you.
And Ulrich, apparently.
What was that?
Yeah, 3 people, because Ulrich apparently is up.
Yeah, Ulrich's with the queen. Yeah.
Hello, Baroness. I assure you, all is well.
Great start.
It may look like nothing is wrong because nothing is amiss.
She eyes the scene very suspiciously. Frequently resting her eyes on the table where she left her rapier.
Was I ask a question? Sorry, I had to let Benji out.
Not yet, but
Okay,
I was
just
just about to formulate one. I sense that the contract is finished.
Ours with you is. Thanks to that clause about us using the Marsupialis rings. I believe Zippo and Yarvik have stepped through one on behest of Her Majesty, Queen Cordelia.
Oh, would that apply to all of us or just Yarvik and Zippo?
A contract was between all of us. If anybody breaks it, it's over. I assume that's how it works.
Oh, I thought maybe it would be on like a person-to-person basis.
My understanding is that would require an individual contract between each of us, which would just be tedious.
Oh, that's a lot of paperwork. I don't know if we could do that.
I am willing to grant some leniency on the terms, but I have come to collect what you still owe.
You want the other half of the marsupialis ring and the remainder of your possessions from that bag, correct?
Correct.
All right. So with that being said, I'm gonna go back over to Yarvik and Zippo. This is happening simultaneously to Zippo looking for and finding the swans. So that because that activated as soon as Zippo went through. So I gave a little bit of leeway on both sides.
Is this within since we're just down the steps? Is this within earshot?
I would say you're far enough away that no, you're not aware of the Baroness having stormed in. It's a big chamber.
To say, have they actually gone through the ring yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
One would assume she. I would imagine what we're getting at is she felt the contract break.
Yeah.
And came storming in as Zippo and was talking to you as Zippo went through and found the swans. So it's kind of the timeline. So now we're kind of at present.
So we're with our group. So where we left off, Zippo was coming back with the two swans, and
so he handed them through to you.
Yep. So I've got the two swans in one hand and Mouse Zippo in the other hand.
Yeah, as soon as I get back there, I'll unpolymorph.
Okay.
Okay. Well, that was better than I expected it to be.
I'm so good at hiding things. I found them immediately because I remembered the perfect hiding spot.
All right then.
And then Zippo will reach up for the swans.
Yep, I'll give them the Zippo, and go on then. This is your big moment. So I guess we'll go back up the stairs.
You're back inside.
Then we owe the Baroness her belongings.
All right. So Zippo and Ulrich, you can move your figures back into the room. You enter through and see the Baroness is standing in the chamber again, kind of speaking with Belzan and Roger. The Baroness, Bavon, you see the two of them coming back through and into the room. You spot two things. First of all, you see Zippo holding both swans out in the open, and you see Yarvik carrying your bag.
I'm gonna whisper like somewhat theatrically to Zippo. Ooh, she big man.
Isn't she always?
The Baroness's eyes will like dart towards the swans, but mainly she will be looking at Yarvik and holding her hand out for the bag.
Fine, I suppose this is yours. And Yarvik will just, we don't need it anymore. We got what we needed.
No, wait a second. Actually, I don't know why I said that. Go for it.
Pleasure doing business with you.
All right, Bavon, you have the bag.
Take the bag. Nod. I don't know if curtly is the right word, but
Professional courtesy.
yeah, kind of like that professional detachedness. And she will curtsy in the direction of the queen, whether or not the queen catches attention from Bavon.
She seems to be in the midst of something. But you see the telltale signs and know that your suspicion of Ulrich being an excellent candidate might have been something that the Queen has taken to heart, which definitely fills you with a sense of pride.
I will allow myself to smirk openly as I leave the chambers.
Okay.
And I will give a wink to Belzian as I go.
Elzian's skin crawls.
All right. I'll let you know if we need to come back in, Bavon. Thank you for the storming.
You're welcome.
All right. So with that excitement, I think it's time that we move up to Ulrich. But before I do, does the reunited two groups have anything to say about what just happened?
But she seemed kind of upset, but it makes sense in the weird vampire-y kind of way.
Well, there goes our free ride out of here.
That does complicate matters.
I mean, if we're part of the negotiating party, I hope the Queen will look after us in some way.
I mean, that's only if she signs the contract.
It would be well within her rights to refuse at the very last second. We'll see.
That is a negotiating tactic.
I got a negotiating tactic. I am very ready to punch, kick, and headbutt every vampire on the way out of here if we need to exit post-haste. I mean, in the name of peace, of course.
Peace through superior firepower. and then Yarvik offers Belzian a fist bump.
Fist pump it is.
All right. I'm going to move up to the final group, Ulrich and the Queen. You're in a what seems to be a place of comfort for the Queen. She has a pile of books that it looks like she has either discarded or read through at some point. The pile looks to have at one point been in an upright stance, but maybe through the sheer amount of books that she's gone through, or whatever the case, it has since toppled. She makes no effort to clean up this mess, and instead kind of looks out over her throne room and seems to be listening for you to say something.
Is this at the start or after?
This is at the start.
We witnessed.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, I suppose we need to negotiate.
I suppose we do.
So, in my own interest here, I would like us. How do I put this delicately? I think if I were to become ascended, it would be. I would like in the contract, I will be more direct about this. I would like in such a contract to have something along the lines of when we are in one another's respective countries. If you come to Seregen, you recognize that you recognize my power there, and I am not subservient to you. Likewise, when I come to Necrata, I recognize your power and I defer to you. Does that make sense?
I see why you would want to include such a clause. She purses her lips and says, "You wish to remain unaffiliated. You do not want to be one of my barons, correct?"
I welcome the idea of being a citizen of three nations, the first of its kind, as far as I am aware. But in fairness, I did not realize there were three nations before a few weeks ago. I do like that idea, but I do want my own autonomy in my own nation. So I suppose, put another way, I would gladly be a baron in Necrata if you were a baroness in Seregen.
I think the difference in realms complicates things.
Indeed it does.
What is your sense of family? What loyalties do you have to your family?
Oh, that is interesting. I have some loyalty, of course. I love them. I I would say that I put my country before my family.
Well, I asked because say your king said that your family has betrayed your kingdom and they must be put to death by your sword. Which would you hold more loyalty to?
You know,
It's a hard
I would
question, I know.
suppose. Well, my loyalty to my king and kingdom is unwavering. Now, the tricky bit, as I believe we've already explained, is I don't have a proper king right now, just the kingdom. And it is my duty to respect the authority of those above me, just as below me must respect mine.
Yes.
These are the bonds and ideals I live by. So, if my king were to command that I kill my uncle for treason, well, that is my duty.
Since you are becoming one of three nations, does that loyalty expand or stay the same?
Seregen will be first always in my heart. But That said, my becoming a member of the Bronze Clan and a barbarian by extension, that was to protect Seregen. Likewise, this is to protect Seregen. And in that way, I suppose I would say that I feel all of our interests align.
I think I see where you're going with this. I do not see a need to write into your contract a clause of servitude to myself. I think you have shown today that you are capable of doing so without our compulsion when it is necessary to do so, and putting any such clause within a contract between the two of us would just complicate the matter.
I agree.
Now, what I see is an opportunity to, in some ways, expand my domain, while also not in factuality. There would always be some sort of understanding between the two of us. I would only require a clause that would prevent you from destroying me directly, as would be for any of my denizens. You would not be able to challenge my throne, and I think it would only be fair that, in return, I would not be able to challenge yours. Is this agreeable?
I believe that is exactly what I seek. An alliance. Forged, as it were, in literal blood, I assume.
Yes. You must have questions about the process. I
Yes,
assume Bayvon has already mentioned some things, but what can I answer before we do the act?
I have uh, the Baroness was kind enough to provide a good amount of information. I
I
I
guess
have
what I'm getting at is, do you have any dubiousness for what we are about to undergo?
Uncertainty?
Yes.
I
That's the word, uncertainty. I'm glad I thought of it.
I would say that yes, of course, I do. This is a rather big undertaking. I recognize that that this is something that's going to make people uneasy. That it is a great changing of myself, and I
She
would be
gestures for you
lying.
to sit as you're talking, and she sits
Oh,
next to you.
he thank you, Con. I appreciate that. I would be lying if I pretended that I would relish the thought of needing to feed on people. I mean no offense when I say that there is a deep part of me that feels this situation is abhorrent. Because I do value people.
So do I. In fact, um, there are many of my kind that do not enjoy that aspect of things. But a child does not always like their vegetables, neither.
And that is a nice way of putting it. I have some thoughts on what I would do to address that, but I suppose I would be interested in your personal experience. How long before a vampire need to feed on a person?
Well, first let me just say that this is going to be a process. Even if you ascend today, which I am planning on doing. This is going to be a very short-lived first stage. Helped by the swans, of course. It'll take it'll take some time, some experience on your part to fully undergo the transformation. It'll take 2 levels out of character.
Oh, okay, cool.
As you gain this power, you'll gain more advantages until you fully become what we are. It'll be somewhere out on the field, I assume. Unless you're staying here, of course, while your friends go and deal with Orcus.
I wouldn't allow them the pleasure of the absence of my company.
She nods and says, you would need to drink from a sentient creature once a week until such a time as you fully turn into one of us, at which point daily is the requirement. Every day that you do not ingest, a hunger will grow. Should you decide to no longer enjoy sentient blood, eventually you will lose your mind and become a beast. Until you do.
All right.
Animal blood may help to dissuade some of these effects for a limited time, but only by a few hours.
And what constitutes sentience in this regard? I wonder, because I have no love for trolls.
A troll would do.
And well, that is good to know. And I wonder, would a demon qualify?
It may qualify in the sentience, but you might find it hard to draw sustenance from it.
I'm nothing if not persistent. But I understand what you're saying.
I would be careful about experimenting at first.
Of course. And how much sustenance? How much feeding? Is it a full exsanguination, or are we talking?
Well, you could drink some from a few, or all of one. It really depends on how much hunger you grow over that time. Your actions, your use of abilities, those can all, those all have a cost.
Indeed. um, do you feel it's more of a blessing or a curse?
Personally,
Yeah.
I see it as a privilege. I am a custodian of this world. Some do see it as something worse or better. What you make of it is up to you. But this is why, above all, I am selective with my children.
Of course. And completely off topic question. But I am curious. I understand you were not the original sovereign, and I wonder what became of your king. This is not to do with my contract or really anything other than a curiosity. I don't fully understand how your people came to be, and as you appear to be immortal,
That is
well,
a far longer story than you have time to hear. But I will say that the previous ruler is still one of us, but he is sleeping in the archives. That is at the end of the great road that climbs the city. You might have seen it on your way in. It's a great ornate building. It was once an enormous mine, and it is now an archive of our people, those who wish to sleep. Some have been dormant for thousands of years. Others nap for only moments, maybe a year at most. But when he took the sleep, he abdicated to me. I am his daughter.
I see. Is that in a, I'm sorry, curious mind here. Is that in a literal sense, as in biologically, or in a vampiric sense?
The latter.
I see.
He was a dwarf.
A what?
Inspiration.
Thank you.
I do understand why you don't recognize the word. I will, just to keep it short, the empire in which the city was built was not originally, per se, us. In fact, the etymology of the word vampire originates from the Dwarven Empire. Vampire.
I'm laughing. That's not
Yeah.
Ulrich even slightly. Jeez.
This is possibly the longest setup to a terrible pun you have ever done.
Oh, jeez. Okay. He says,
Is it vampire?
Vampire,
With an E?
yeah. E-N, yeah.
"Oh my god."
That's why the Baroness have said vampire a lot, but with the way she speaks,
Yeah.
you can easily mistake it for vampire, which many races have done in the past, and vampire
Yep.
became the etymology. Yep.
Jesus.
Yep.
Okay. Take an inspiration yourself. All right. And I suppose in taking this, am I putting my friends at risk?
If you go into beast form, absolutely. But they are already at risk traveling in my domain, and should I think you know the way to prevent that now.
Yeah. Well, I will be a fool to not ask, but given that there are certain disadvantages, that clearly the sun, are there other disadvantages that I should be aware of? Anything that I should especially be careful around?
You will be compelled to count should someone drop things on the floor.
All right.
There is the act of invitation. You must be invited into someone else's abode, should there be a threshold to it.
What constitutes an abode?
A threshold. A hinged door.
And if it's abandoned?
The door does not exist, then it is no longer an abode.
Well, I was thinking more like maybe there's a door, but people don't live there anymore.
Then there's no one to invite you in.
And I simply cannot go in.
You can go in.
Okay.
The rule is revolves around, it requires there to be someone to allow you access. This is one of the curses from the war that prevented us from doing what we needed to do.
I am very sorry, but I've just had a thought. If this is a court curse from the war, can you cross? Even without the wall, are you able to cross those boundaries?
Well, there ain't no door, so I would assume
I
so.
suppose so.
But this treaty should do the trick.
Shit. As a out of character moment, I am also fishing for weaknesses in the vampires for my own more paladin traditional reasons.
She'll also say that if should you wish to cross water, you can either fly over it or when you rest, you must be in your coffin.
Sorry, there was fly over water or?
Sorry. So if you are sailing on a boat, for example, over the water, you must be in your coffin. You cannot.
Oh.
You must rest or fly.
Coffin.
Yes.
I don't have a coffin.
I'll arrange one for you. A transportable model, of course.
Wow, that's the first time someone said that in a friendly fashion.
Well, I mean, Ulrich, you must know, we are of the undead. You are
Yeah.
asking me to kill you.
No,
Plain as day.
I was just having a play right there. I fully understand. All right, so water is harmful, but there
But
are ways around that.
yes, there are ways around it, and ultimately, you will find that in death, you will be hard pressed to be killed. Should you be slain, and you will turn to mist and respawn in 1 hour. But until we had the swans, that would mean that if within that hour you did not find your coffin, you would perish, or if you were caught out in sunlight. Now, we're solving that thanks to you and your group. So just keep your coffin nearby, or any type of coffin that you deem to be your own. You must make a mark on it, your mark. We can talk, and I can tell you more about these things as we go. And I'm sure you'll learn some of these yourself that I'm just forgetting, because, well, it's been a while.
Is there okay. I appreciate it. I think this is a good amount. Y'all don't like silver though. Is that right?
Another weakness from the war, yes.
No silver.
We've outlawed silver, so I just completely plumb forgot.
Yeah, absolutely. At this moment, he takes his 144 silver pieces and throws it at Nom.
At where?
No, I'm just kidding. I'll have to pass that off to the others. Okay, no silver, no sun. The swans are gonna let us walk back in the sunlight, though, by the sounds of it.
Yes.
Okay. After you turned, did you notice a change in your demeanor?
I recognize a certain clarity.
Clarity, okay. Well, that's all very, very helpful. And let me think. We've got no clause of servitude. We will have a clause that prevents me from destroying or challenging you directly, and you likewise will not be able to destroy or challenge me directly. I feel that is broad enough while also being specific enough, personally. And as I have an intelligence of 15, whatever that means, I think that's as far as I'm going to investigate this.
I won't make
I
it
don't have
hurt.
proficiency in that. Okay. That's good. Oh God. Sorry. One last question. This is very important.
She smiles knowingly.
Like, do I still need to relieve myself? Because that's just kind of a hassle. That's not really the question I have, although it's something I suppose I'm interested in. Can I heal? Like, can I use... I mean, y'all seem to still have a connection to the 12. I am a I am a paladin of, I have a divine calling. Will I still be able to serve Zarek?
There are many races that are children of certain gods, but worship others as well. Do you specifically worship Zarek, or do you acknowledge the 12 as a whole?
I acknowledge the 12 as a whole, but I align myself most with Zarek
Well,
as a god of war and discord.
just, I think it's only natural that you could expand your patron deity to the inevitability of war. You can serve
Yeah,
both.
that's valid. And I can utilize their might still.
I would say that that's something you'll have to figure out for yourself, and your god may have something to say about that. I don't know. I was not a paladin myself, so I don't exactly know what will happen.
Well, that's valid. Do I get the sense that that was the knowing look? Like, was she surprised by that question instead of?
She's just the knowing look is kind of like there's going to be questions, and there's going to be one more that
Oh,
you'll
okay.
think of every time.
Yeah.
This is a lot.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
she's doing her best to try and calm this adrenaline, right? Which is what it is.
Yeah.
You basically just signed your own death sentence, knowingly, for more power, but
Yep.
there's still a part of you that's like, what do I not know? What do I need to know? Right? Yeah.
Cool. I think with that he'll say, "Well, I think it's time I roll some dice on this and take a little bit of a gamble."
Okay. So, are you looking to roll some actual dice,
Oh,
or is that just a figure of speech?
that's a figure of speech. I
Okay.
mean,
Copy.
if you need me to.
Nope, you're good. um, she looks you in the eye. She's very close now. And she says, she murmurs, "Are you ready?"
As ready as I can be.
So she asks you to swear to the two that you agreed upon, which we can kind of write out later, but this is a verbal contract, one that cannot be torn or burned. This is a contract in blood. So it is a something that you are going to be vowing before the bite.
Yep.
We've kind of agreed to the terms, and I can watch back to get the actual wording. But do you agree to
I
those?
wrote down the following in our Discord. No
Okay.
clause of servitude.
Mhm.
Queen requires clause that prevents Ulrich from destroying / challenging her directly. Queen likewise would not destroy challenge him directly.
Yes.
Yep. Does she
She'll
vow
invoke
this
the
as
same.
well?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
She'll
In which case,
she basically says, "I in ascending, or I in consuming the blood of Ulrich Oakenhurth," and then vow to, and then goes through that.
great.
As the final words of your vow leave your lips, the vampire queen draws close and bites your neck. You feel very woozy and are filled with a sense of ecstasy as that wooziness kind of increases as you feel your blood leaving you. She after she's drained maybe half of your blood, she basically has you. She tears some of her flesh on her wrist with a tooth and has you drink from her wrist.
He does it, thinking the whole while, man, this is all the most unsanitary way to go about things.
Yeah, she's doing it the more visceral way. Yeah, for sure. It's there's a lot more contact. It's much more intimate. Yeah. From there, she bends back and drinks from your neck again. This time, you feel a certain sense of coldness fill you, and you pass out. Everything goes black. Those of you down below kind of see this begin to happen, and you see Ulrich collapse on the ground. Begin to collapse on the ground, but the Baroness, the Queen. I'm reading Brian Brebel's chatting. The Queen catches him easily, with seeming great strength, and returns him to the bench. You open your eyes again anew. Colors are different. Everything is kind of a lot more saturated now. You can actually see the runes in the floor and the walls that glow a bluish instead of a yellowish color. You can see the magic flowing through them. And your eyes have changed color, though you can't see this. You are now Ulrich the vampire. Or a vampire, if you will.
Oh yeah, I meant to put that in my notes. What color are his eyes?
They are gold.
Gold, okay.
What color were your eyes before?
Green.
Yep. She offers a hand to help you up from the bench.
He takes it.
You stand up and feel a little bit wobbly at first. It's going to take a little bit of getting used to because you don't have blood flowing through your veins anymore. That coldness, that numbness persists slightly, but it has mostly dissipated. But it feels wrong, because you're so used to being a living person, right? That's gonna take some getting used to. And you have a certain detachment. You seem to be more focused on the things that motivate you. You're no longer distracted by mortal thoughts, right? You are now an immortal vampire, and as such, you have certain character changes from that. You do not turn evil automatically, as No Race does. you remain the alignment that you are, but that alignment is in the skew of what a immortal vampire that consumes living people would deem to be lawful neutral. So just keep that in mind. What you deem as lawful neutral may not be what others deem as lawful neutral. So just keep that in mind. Feel free to change any and all bonds or other character traits that you based your character on to more align with your new race. And that can be something we go over in the future.
Sure.
But as you stand, Queen Cordelia lifts your hand and speaks softly, but it echoes through the room as if she was next to all of you. And she says, Ulrich is back with us again. As a vampire. As a member of the Three Nations. And she turns and she says, I knew you'd have an oaky aftertaste. And she licks her lips and says, well, shall we get back to the matters at hand?
I think we shall.
And she walks Ulrich back down.
Would you like me to read off the draft terms of the agreement?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. Parties to this contract are the representatives of and nations of Relic, Necrata, and Seregen. And the clauses: all nations party to this agreement will respect and work to maintain the borders that the wall once enforced. Military forces may cross that border if and only if necessary to pursue mutual military objectives, but will leave upon completion of the mutual military objective or if ordered to by a legitimate representative of the host nation. Clause 2. All nations party to this agreement will provide military and or economic support to each other in the war against Orcus. Clause 3. Diplomatic envoys, including the signatories to this contract, will be granted peaceful passage as continued communication is needed between all three nations. Clause 4. At the discretion of the host nation may remove unwanted diplomats by safely and forcibly, if needed, escorting them to the border of their home nation, then expelling them, then stripping them of their status as diplomats and the protections this agreement provides. Clause 5. Relic shall owe reparations to Necrata for transgressions following the fall of the wall. Relic will also acknowledge fault for these transgressions. Clause 6. The diplomats shall return the swans at the signing of the contract. Clause 7. Zippo may observe when the swans are activated. And my numbering's gotten a little messed up here. Let me renumber these real quick. Clause 8. This contract is for the express purpose of uniting the nations party to this agreement to fight against Orcus. Upon the defeat of Orcus, this treaty of non-aggression will continue until such a time at which the leaders of each nation can meet to negotiate a new agreement. Clause 9. Should any party violate the terms of this contract, all parties will be released from the terms of this contract with no further effect. This contract is entered freely and may be exited freely by all parties. Clause 10. Death of any signatory to this agreement will not break the contract. Any applicable terms will pass on to any successors.
All right. So, one thing I'm going to do is This is going to be actually Amethyst. This is going to be interesting because what I'd like to do is do a check from the Queen to scan the contract for any things that she might have that if the wording is she's doing a check to see if the wording is something that she'd uh, disagree to or something that you're trying to get by her. Not to say that you are, but this is something that she's doing to check it. So in this case, you would be the game master of contract making, and I'm doing a check to see if there's anything that she detects in the contract since you wrote it. Is that fair?
Sure.
And
Are we rolling against each other, or am I just picking a number?
I would say pick a number. Yeah.
Um,
If you feel like it's pretty easily worded and that there's not much, you can make it a low number. If there's something that you're hiding that you think would be harder to detect, you can make it harder. I trust your DM ability to kind of get that number. Sorry to put you on the spot.
let me make a quick edit to the last clause here before I give you a number.
Okay.
Then the reason I'm doing that is one of the ways that it's possible to violate this contract is by killing one of the signatories. But we also have a clause that says death of a signatory doesn't break the contract, and a clause that says violating the contract ends the contract. So that needs to be clarified. Because she'll definitely notice that. Let's see. That a natural or wartime death, natural, accidental, or wartime death of any signatory to this agreement will not break the contract. In case of such an occurrence,
And I guess while
all applicable terms will pass on to any successors.
while this is kind of a draft, if anybody else has any other complaints about the way it's worded, I see some 100% and some smiley faces, so I think we might be okay. But I mean, this can be happening while Ulrich is being turned, of course.
Yeah. So the rewording of the final clause there to fix the paradox that we wrote into the contract. A natural, accidental, or wartime death of any signatory to this agreement will not break the contract. In case of such an occurrence, all applicable terms will pass on to any successors.
So basically, to kind of summarize, there are automatic things in place for continuing the contract, and then also loops for if the contract is broken. So, for example, since it's a free entered freely, it can be exited freely, but that doesn't mean that it automatically gets exited automatically for things that aren't acts that break the contract, like death, right?
Yeah. Basically, to clarify for everybody, listeners included,
Yeah.
The reason that we had this issue is the Queen wants the contract to have specific language that prevents her from dying should she or one of her subordinates, on purpose or accidentally, break the contract in some way, because it's got a lot of clauses. So Clause 9 says if any party violates the terms, all parties are released. And then, but she also wants a clause that allows the contract to continue if one of us dies, including herself. So that clause that continues the contract if one of us dies needs to be worded in such a way that it doesn't also include intentional deaths by one of the signatories killing the other.
Yeah.
But I think that's the only change that I feel like I have to make. With that said, Roger's not trying to get one over on her. In fact, he even added an entire clause that is, he believes, to her benefit, but will also be to the benefit of the existing powers and Relic and Seregen, to expel diplomats safely if they
Yeah.
want to, while
Okay.
also ensuring the ability to have diplomats come in. So I'm going to say I'm going to say it's easy, DC 10,
Okay.
for
She makes it.
her. Yeah, to determine that Roger is not trying to hide anything. He legitimately believes that this is fair, um, and to the best of his ability, he has included the things that she wanted in this contract.
So she at this point says, "I think we are at an agreement. I think these terms are quite nice and will withstand the testament of time." Um, so she says, "Let me call in my servant to assist in the process of drafting the contract." And she gestures, and the servant that had left before by her gesture seems to be summoned without word. And he deftly comes back and stands where he was previously by the desk. She hands him your draft, and without looking, he takes a page from the pile, dips a quill in red ink, and transposes the contract word for word in a language you do not understand, and in subtext in common. Ulrich, add Dwarven to your languages.
Ooh, exciting.
You can see that it is basically both the same text, just one is the grammar is a little bit different because of the ordering of the words, but they essentially say the same thing. Just the nouns are in different places, and so on and so forth. Adjectives, verbs, yada yada.
Is Dwarvish SVO? or OSV?
Good question. What's Dwarvish? So the servant drafts the contract, and when finished, it is 2 neat pages, worded in Dwarven and Common. He lays them carefully on the table for everyone to read, and leaves the quill dipped in the red ink next to the contract for each member to sign. I would require each of you to sign your full name. not just your first name, but any surname or other title that you may have. Let's make it as official as possible. So, if it is simply one word, of the nation that you are representing is fine, or nations. And I will sign at the end.
Yarvik bumps everybody out of the way. Grabs the quill.
Before, young Yarvik, before you sign, I believe you have something of mine.
Which is?
Well,
The swans.
your friend Zippo has it, but
Yeah, he has them.
you, as in York.
Okay, a question. With all due respect, Your Majesty, why are they swans and not like geese or ducks? Like, what is the significance? I mean, coming from a place of wanting to understand.
I did not make them. I do not know why the person who created them made them this way.
Well, that could be said of all of us. We don't know why whoever made us this way. So that's very fair. Thank you.
At least it's not a duck with an apple.
Oh, why a duck with an apple? What?
Oh, because that's a thing that Ulrich was telling the Baroness at our first
Oh, right,
meeting.
yeah. A pair.
Roger will sign it. Roger Mays.
Oh, we forgot Yarvik. Yarvik is signing.
Yeah, but she
He's-
needs. So she stops Roger too, and she says, "And the swans, please, Zippo." She's holding out her hand expectantly.
I'm sorry, my headset about died. Yeah, Zippo will look to her and be like, okay, and he'll give her one first, and he'll be like, can we sign then send the other one? Because I'm not that I don't trust you since we're already kind of halfway through this thing, but you understand safety reasons.
It says upon
Since
the
it was-
signing of the contract. This is at the point
Yeah,
where we're about to
But
sign.
we're not. We haven't signed it yet. It says at the signing,
Yeah, we're at the signing.
but it's not. It's not what I thought. I don't know. My brain doesn't work very well. I only attack things. And then Zippo will, I guess, hand her the other swan and then kind of pretty much almost glued to her hip to wait to see how they activate.
I will ask, do you folks want me to activate them after the signing or now?
Let's do it after the signing.
So
No.
Yarvik is going to John Hancock it up. Just big, huge loop. Yarvik P. Venison Bringer. Dot. And then he'll hand the quill to Roger.
Roger Mays of Reladrin.
Zippo will sign it, Zippo.
Not even of the Bronze Clan or nothing like that? I'm surprised, Zippo.
I don't know how to spell it.
Would you like some help?
That would be great.
O
Okay.
F.
Okay, gotcha. Then he writes out Bronze Clan.
You forgot the T,
Oh.
H, and E right next to each other. She
Okay,
says gently.
he'll squeeze them in between the words.
Very nice.
He immediately after signing goes back to glued at the hip, pretty much looking at the swans.
Okay. Belzian, Ulrich.
Yes, I can put my name to this. Present it. Here we go. Belzian Gilcus, of the Sanctum of Arcos, of Seregen, and also of the tribes of Relic, and speaking of the 12, also forever servant of the 12. He wrote a lot of letters in a space, so it's a little cramped looking, but it's there. Oh, and the elves! He crosses out a bunch of stuff and writes like, "We were also sent here by the elves." Ulrich, you gonna put your name on this paper here, or what's up with your eyes? Anyways, sign here.
How you feeling there, Goldie?
Did we lose Ulrich? Is he muted? He's muted.
He's pouring his heart out, and he's muted.
Uh-oh. Did we lose Ulrich?
We assume
Oh,
he's
okay.
walking
He's saying
very
1
slowly
second. All right.
and very dramatically. Oh no!
He said 1 second.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
The fucking Discord, fix your shit, guys. I hit the unmute button. I was unmuted.
Ulrich, we've been waiting for you for ages. Are you gonna sign this thing or not?
Yeah. Sorry. I was thinking about something.
I don't know if you heard the various questions that we all hurled at you.
I don't know if you know this, but your heart is loud. Anyway, yeah, he signs it. Ulrich Oakenhearth, emissary of the Bronze Clan, envoy of Necrata, and I don't actually know what my noble title is in Seregen.
So you aren't you aren't leader of your house, your uncle is.
Yeah.
So of the Oakenhearth clan, or of the not clan, of the Oakenhearth family, maybe? Noble of the Oakenhearth nobility? Or of the Oakenhearth nobility?
Noble
Yeah.
Noble of House Oakenhearth.
Yes, there it is.
And Protectorate of Seregen. So he signs a really pompous fucking signature.
All right.
Or Protectorate's not the right word. What am I thinking? Protector, just Protector. Apologies.
Got it.
Yeah.
The queen picks up the quill and writes, Queen Cordelia Malkovia of Queen of the Vampires, and leaves it at.
Does she spell it vampire or venpire?
Vampire.
There you go.
Venpire. With that, you all feel a kind of a whoosh of energy as the words alight and glow redder for a moment. Ulrich, you see that same sense of bluish energy flow through the words. You're not sure if it's because of the place that you're in, and it might not look like this later on. But yeah, the rest of the group, you feel that surge of energy as well. Something about a contract with the Queen just holds a little bit more weight. Yeah. So with that, she places a seal on the document, which she folds up the document and places a seal on it, which she hands to her servant, and he gingerly takes it and stores it away.
Boy, I hope we're done signing all these contracts and agreements, and I feel like at some point they're going to start having conflict. Like things are going to start going, hey, like, we're going to start bugging out at some point here.
From there, you all suddenly feel, Ulrich, you hear the queen say in Dwarvish, dispel, and you all feel that feeling of magic return to you. You all now can feel the flow of magic again, at least for now. And the queen holds up the two swans. She's wearing gloves, but they still seem to be steaming a bit. She's in obvious pain. And she takes the swans and suddenly a surge of power extends through her hands, and she shatters both of the swans. They shatter into dust, and Ulrich, you feel a surge of power return to you. One that you didn't know you were missing, but your body did. Queen Cordelia breathes in a sigh of relief, and she dusts her hands of the swans, and she says, "Thank you." And she says, "The sword has been sharpened." And that's where we'll end session for tonight.
Huzzah!
Huzzah indeed. This is the edgiest thing I've ever done as a D&D player.
This is the
Wow,
what?
really?
The edgiest thing I've
Edgiest
ever
thing.
done as a D&D player. Yeah.
It's a pretty balls out play, not gonna lie.
Whoa, slow down. Don't cut yourself on that edge.
This seemed very well reasoned compared to all of the edgy things we did as teenagers.
I have always been an old man though, so that's yeah.
What? You never watched the movie Lost Boys and you were like, what if?
No.
Brambles
watched-
says, "I don't believe this is the edgiest thing that you've done as a player, but it's pretty edgy."
I mean, I don't know. I'm usually a lawful good guy. I don't play with the
Our party has generally been pretty polite, Zippo excluded, and then like very mild mannered. So, so this is a big play. This is
So
a very
so
big
what
play.
you're saying is Ulrich is turned heel, right?
no.
Not yet.
I kind of get that because Zippo's also my most chaotic character I've ever played. I played one evil character before him, and they all died. And ever since then, all of my characters, especially in John's games, have all just been the stand in front, take all the hits, and help the team.
Yep.
I've never played an evil. I've played like an evil one-off, but I have never found that a satisfying gameplay style. I've never had a desire to play even Black and Warcraft. Like I always played Alliance. I just like that side of it. I never really got into the other stuff.
Even campaigns are fun,
but is Alliance actually good, guys?
So, with that being said, and we can continue to talk a little bit off session, but thank you everyone for joining us. One thing to note, we are not going to be meeting in 2 weeks because I am going to be traveling for work. But that being said, we are mostly agreed to maybe meeting next week, with the exception of Belzian. I think that based on that, we still have the ability to play. So if somebody else doesn't have an obligation that week, then we should be back next week, and then we'll be taking a 3-week break. Or no, a 2-week. something break from there. Yeah, 3-week break. So
we'll be off cycle, but yeah,
yeah,
Change the
it'll be
rhythm.
this week, next week.
next week, and then we'd be
Break
going
through
back to cycle on the 2nd of July. So
Okay.
yeah. So that being said, folks, we'll figure it out and let you know in the Discord. But thanks for joining us for this session. Definitely different from the normal one, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next, and I'm sure you are too. So we'll see you then. And in the meantime, be safe, be well, be excellent, and have a great night. Bye. Thanks for joining us.
Good night.
Thanks, bye.